It is 5 p.m. and I'm going to call the meeting of the Public Safety Committee and Committee of the Whole to order. First of all, we'll start off with the roll call. I'm Rob Watton, and joining me this evening are Councilmember Kara Christensen and Councilmember Dr. Catherine Cotton, as well as the city staff. With that, I am going to bring up, before we move on to the agenda approval, I'm going to use the powers of the chair. And I wanted to congratulate the council for approving and probably one of the earliest budgets ever in city history, maybe at least recently, but also for the emphasis being placed on public safety. And it's a big move for the city to go from a staff of about 15 for the fire department to allow for 3 new hires as firefighters, EMTs. And that means that we're going to be able to have a city that responds to more incidents faster, and especially serving our citizens, our residents. And that's going to be pretty significant going forward. So congratulations and the firefighters that have worked so diligently through some tough times, being able to take away some of the mandatory overtime and be able to run as many as 2 rigs at a time too, rather than being limited to 1. So congratulations, well done. With that, I'm going to move on to the agenda approval is before you. Are there any corrections, additions to tonight's agenda, council members? Hearing none, I'll accept the agenda as presented. Next, I will open it up for public comments, and this is a time for residents and those that are here to be able to share their views on public safety and just keep a couple things in mind. It is recorded. Secondly, is that you please address your concerns to the committee as its entirety and not any individual on the committee. And we will always follow up where appropriate with staff, because what we're doing is we're helping to set policy. We don't do the day-to-day. You don't see us out on fire runs. You don't see us patrolling streets, but the people that are responsible for making all those things happen are in the room, and they will definitely hear you. So with that, if you care to offer public comment, we have 3 minutes is the time, and please state your name and then share with us what's on your mind. Oh, by the way, come step up to our podium here.
Hello, my name is Karen Danduran. I live in Snoqualmie for past 15 years, and my concern is the street Newton and the 202. The junction. It's a very dangerous crossing for pedestrians and for anyone. Now that we have a new park downtown, everybody take that road to go downtown. I send my kids, they're big enough to cross and to do it on themselves. But unfortunately, my son got hit 3 weeks ago over there. And I'm very concerned because they bike to school. They do everything. I bike to school and the cars are looking at me like, who's gonna go faster? And I find it very concerning. So I hope that the city will take whatever it needs to, have a safety crossing for people, not only for my children, but for everybody. I think that the downtown is growing up with younger family, a beautiful new park. And I think we just have to make it as safety, that corner, that it is downtown for pedestrians. That's it.
So just point of clarification, it's 202 and
Newton.
Meadowbrook?
Newton is the one where the laundromat is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and the traffic just get worse and worse as the city get bigger downtown with the students going and driving to school, after school. I think we just need to really look into make it that junctions a little bit safer for everybody.
Fabulous. Thank you. If you would mind sharing your contact information with the chief, Brian Lynch, and he'll make sure to follow up on that.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much for bringing
You're
that
welcome.
here.
Hope your son is doing better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a small bump,
Okay.
but I think we have to do something before it get worse for anybody.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Sorry about that. All right. Is there any other further comments? Seeing no one else in the chamber, I will close our public comments section. And by the way, this evening, tonight is being recorded and we're using Zoom. If you have concerns that you're not able to be here in person, please send those to the city clerk for inclusion in our future meetings, and that the three council members have a chance to see your comments, because we're always concerned. And then, of course, you can always catch previous episodes on the city's YouTube channel. So thank you much. All right, moving on to the minutes. Approval of the minutes dated September 16th, 2024 from the committee. And are there any changes to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, we will accept the minutes approved as presented. Thank you very much. And now, moving on to Chief Brian Lynch. Agenda Bill AB 24-095, interlocal agreement renewal with Score Jail.
Good afternoon. So before we get into the nuts and bolts of this interlocal agreement renewal, I think it would be helpful for anyone new to dealing with jails and anyone that's listening now or in the future to give a quick overview of how our jail system works in Snoqualmie and Washington State. So in Washington State, we either have misdemeanor crimes or we have felony crimes. There's a couple of different misdemeanors, as a misdemeanor or a gross misdemeanor, but they're still handled in municipal court, and those can only be housed in municipal jails. They cannot go to the King County Jail unless there's an emergency, and we have to book somebody in that we're paying exorbitant amounts to put somebody into a felony jail. So that hardly ever happens throughout the year. So the majority of our in custodies are misdemeanors, and we have several jails that we can choose from to take our misdemeanors to house them. Once they're arrested, we like to send them to the Issaquah jail first, because we have guaranteed bed spots that we pay for. Those are the lowest west side of the mountains jail contract that we have. And I'll explain west side of the mountains in a second. So we like to put our people in the Issaquah jail whenever we can. They have nursing staff there. They are close to our court. They operate on for court days where they don't have to pull them out of the jail. And we send somebody down there with an iPad, and they can do their court via Zoom. So it's a lot more feasible than going somewhere and putting them somewhere else and having to pick people up and bring them to court. If for some reason that they're not able to go to Issaquah, either Issaquah is full, there has been times when there's been COVID outbreaks and they're shut down. They're not accepting any new inmates at that time. If for some reason there's medical issues that are too big for what Issaquah's medical staff can handle, then we will be denied entry with that particular person. And then the next on the list would be Score Jail. And Score Jail is in SeaTac. It is a misdemeanor jail that contracts with a lot of different police departments. Their rates are higher than the Issaquah jail. So we don't like going there as much as the Issaquah one. We'll do everything we can possible to go to Issaquah first. And Score Jail is our second choice. And it's basically our only other option for misdemeanors in this area. Now, like I said before, if both of those are a no, for some reason they're not accepting on either one, and we are at a mandatory arrest, there's just a couple of mandatory arrests where the RCW says you shall arrest and you shall book somebody into jail. That's a domestic violence assault. And that's a repeat DUI within 7 years. So those have to be per RCW. We can't just give them a citation and send them on their way and give them a court date. They have to go to jail. If for some reason those facilities cannot take our mandatory arrests, then we can make arrangements with the King County Jail, and we're going to be paying a lot more for their stay at downtown Seattle because they're a misdemeanor going into a jail that we do not have a contract with, that we don't have a guaranteed bed space for. So I think last year we used that particular jail for misdemeanors twice, and I only know of once this year so far. So we try to keep that at a minimum. Once they go through the court system and they are found guilty, and if it's something egregious enough where they are sentenced to actual jail time, they're going to either stay at the Issaquah jail, or we have a contract with Sunnyside Jail east of the mountains, which is a lot cheaper per day, per bed space, to have our long-term male inmates housed. They will not take any of our females. So it's if we have females that are sentenced to any kind of jail time, and that jail time could be anywhere from 90 days for a misdemeanor or up to 364 days for a gross misdemeanor. They're going to be housed at the rates that Issaquah puts per our agreement, and we're kind of stuck. There is no other place to put them. So what I've seen in the last couple of years has been a consistent, from SCORE and from King County, a consistent 4% increase per year with their bed space. So this is what I'm bringing to the council tonight. We need to continue this relationship with SCORE Jail, and because they are our safety net when it comes to misdemeanors. It is very rare that they would say no to any of our misdemeanors. They have doctors on site, and part of the contract, the letter that came with this ILA was saying that they have upped their days that they have an actual doctor at the facility to 5 days now, to go along with their 7-day-a-week nursing staff. So this 4% is helping those programs so they can have better medical staffing. So the booking fees, that's a one-time. When you're brand new, we bring somebody off the street, they're in custody, and we're getting hit with a booking fee, an initial booking fee. And in 2024, as it sits right now with SCORE, it's $65. The days after that, we're going to go to $142. Excuse me, I'm sorry, that's for the daily guaranteed beds, but the non-guaranteed beds are the numbers that I want to point out because we don't have a guaranteed bed system with SCORE. So that $204.97, that's what we're paying per day to house someone at SCORE, in addition to the $65. Now, the 4% increase across the board for all of the beds, that goes to the daily non-guaranteed rate, your mental health beds, your medical acute beds, and your mental health acute beds. Very seldom do we bring anybody to SCORE Jail where they're not in a medical or the mental health acute beds. So we're paying, as it sits right now, $286.34 a day to house somebody that has mental health issues, that needs to be seen by psychiatrists, needs to be medicated during their time of in custody. Across the board, a 4% increase. So starting in January 1, that same mental health bed goes from $286.34 to $297.79. And the initial booking fee is going up from $65 to $80. You can see that I've provided what we are paying right now as far as the city of Issaquah. Their daily fee, $147 a day. So quite a bit difference between Issaquah Jail and Score Jail. The King County jail fees, those are the times when we have to bring a misdemeanor to King County and put them in. That's $256.90 a day with a $262.25 booking fee. So this is in line with the last two years that I've come before the committee with a 4% increase. I don't see this stopping anytime soon. With the inflation, the contracts for the people that work in the facilities, and the adding of the medical treatment and the mental health treatment at SCORE, I would anticipate this happening every year. And so far they have not disappointed me. So that's kind of my spiel on this. It is a thing that we have to do. Unfortunately, as much as that I wish that this is something that we could negotiate down, we are not entity members of SCORE. That is Tukwila and Renton, Kent, Auburn, and Federal Way. Those are the departments that the cities that actually made that facility. All the rest of them are contract cities. And we just don't use this contract enough to make it to make sense to actually have guaranteed beds at SCORE. So we do our best to put people in Issaquah first. And if they have to go to SCORE for a few days to make room in Issaquah, they will sit there at SCORE under these prices, but we will move them as soon as possible to get them to the other facility. And when they are set for a guilty plea, or they're found guilty and they're sentenced, then we do our best to get them over to Sunnyside, so where we can save some money there as well. So I will entertain any questions that you have, if I can explain anything further.
Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you. So first of all, did I understand it right that we don't maintain any guaranteed beds at SCORE? at
We do
this time?
not.
Okay, great. And then for whatever the budget, obviously we've just gone through and approved, were the numbers that are increased, I guess it won't make that much of a difference if we're not maintaining any current beds now, but were those numbers used in generating the budget?
They were.
Okay.
They were. We baked that into the recipe for an increase.
Okay, great. I was hoping, because I saw that they'd reached out in July, so that's wonderful. Okay, my other questions aren't significant then if we're not using it as often. Thank you, Chief.
Councilmember Cotton.
Chief, couple questions if I might. Is SCORE a private facility, or is it that combination municipalities?
Yeah, it's the South County Correctional Regional Entity. I know I'm butchering the words, but it is owned by the cities that built it
Okay,
and put the funding up to get it. It is not a privately owned,
okay,
it is public.
okay.
Yeah.
With the Issaquah, well, I guess I should start by asking, is there an average that you can kind of quote off the top of your head, number of misdemeanors that that are arrested per year? Could you roughly say what we?
Yeah, I mean, I can give you the numbers that we actually charge and arrest. They're not the same as who we are actually putting handcuffs on and booking into the facility. That's much lower. Since this time last year, I put a directive out that we would only be booking misdemeanors if they were mandatory bookings. So the two instances that I told you about, the domestic violence assault or the repeat DUI offender, those are the two that we are mandatory to place in. So as a cost controlling tool, we're not putting the majority of people that we arrest into jail. They may get arrested and booked administratively, where they're fingerprinted and take a photo, and they're giving a citation with a court date. And if they don't show up to that court date, then a warrant will be put out for them. And then the next time we find them, they will go to jail. But most of the time, sending misdemeanors directly to jail is not reasonable. So very few go to the jail compared to what we are actually arresting and charging. Like right now, if I had to guess how many people are in jail for us, it's less than 15 everywhere,
Short and long term.
short and long term. Yeah,
How many guaranteed beds does Issaquah keep for the city of Snoqualmie?
yep, we have 5 beds for Snoqualmie and 5 beds for North Bend.
Okay,
So those are the guaranteed prices. If we were to go on a binge and we're gonna put 10 people in from an incident, then we're gonna pay 5 at the guaranteed rate and then 5 at a higher rate
but then on.
until we can start bringing those people through court and releasing them.
And does Officer,
Mandry?
Mandry,
Mhm.
yeah, does she transport the patient, excuse me, the arrestees like to and from either the facility or court or,
So if they're at Issaquah jail, there's no need to even take them out of the jail.
okay,
Used to be that she had to go over and grab them and walk them across the street outside and go into the court.
okay,
That's all done by closed circuit television now.
okay,
So she has to go to the Issaquah jail and she will put them in a room where they can have contact with an attorney, but it's all done by iPad.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. Does SCORE, I saw down at the bottom that they have, booking and security fees. Not booking, transport.
Transport and security
Trans-
fees.
Do they charge us for, because we transport our own,
Yeah, we don't use that. And those would be, if they were to call and say, we have somebody here that is injured and needs to go to the emergency room.
oh, okay.
We send an officer over there to pick them up. Instead of having one of their officers do the transport and wait at the higher rates, we'll send one of our officers over there. Most of the time, it would be Officer Mandry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it looks like with the 4% that it's not really raising anything more. I mean, everything was like under $15 per charge, basically, that they were
Yeah.
raising it. So, I mean, it certainly seems like the cost of doing business.
Right. Well, very well. I think you covered a lot of the questions that I had.
Okay.
Booking fee, it's kind of interesting. That actually is about a 23% increase
Oh,
over
yeah.
the
Yeah.
existing one. So it's kind of like a Costco membership, I guess.
We'll try getting tickets at Ticketmaster. They'll give you a booking fee as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
No, thank you.
Let's see. So I guess our next decision is we're gonna bring it to council.
This needs to be
Right.
signed by the end of the month.
Okay.
So I've got it on the agenda for the next council meeting. It's just up to you whether it's to the full council with a presentation or on consent.
Seems pretty straightforward.
I'm agreeable to consent.
Consent?
Mhm.
Okay. Consent it is then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right, excellent. Moving right along. Emergency Management Performance Grant. I presume that is Chief Bailey that is presenting. Yep, that's the last one left.
Good evening. Just wanted to bring to the committee's attention some of the work that we've been doing with emergency management and specifically some grants that we've gotten over the last couple of years, just so that you're aware of what's going on. So the EMPG grant stands for Emergency Management Performance Grant, and it's used for emergency management activities. And how it works in the past is it's the 4 cities in the area have gotten together and created a group that's called the Snoqualmie Valley Emergency Management Organization. And really what it is it's Carnation, Snoqualmie, Duval, and North Bend have kind of been working together over the last, 10 years to not only share emergency management ideas, exercises, some things like that to work collaboratively, but also to apply for this grant. Basically, neither of the cities had met the qualifications to apply for the grant on their own. So they did it they created this organization, did it collaboratively because of matching funds and some things like that. Snoqualmie has historically been the the lead agency in this process. That's part of the reason why some of the funds are split between the fire chief and emergency management in regards to salary, because they use that as matching funds for the grant. They use part of my salary that falls under emergency management. That's the matching funds that are needed for this grant. In the past, it's been used for some things like the AM broadcast, the warning signs that we've seen around town, the flashing warning light. It's been used for that. It's been used for EOC exercises. And again, these are amongst the 4 cities. A lot of it, the work has been done to hire consultants for creating some of the documents that are needed for emergency management, for the CEMPs, some of the guiding documents, and then also equipment having to do with emergency management. For Snoqualmie, some of the things that we've purchased in the past, again, have been those signs. We upgraded some of the AV equipment in the training room a couple years ago. That grant was used for that. And then also the money in the last year or two, we split some of the money that we've been using for the consultant to create our CEMP and update it has come out of this grant. The way it works, I fill out an application, we go through the application, each of the neighboring cities put in what they're interested in. It gets sent to the state when it's approved, and then they go out and purchase it, and then we reimburse them through city funds, and then we go to the state and then get it reimbursed through the state. So this year, the amount of money available was $15,668 for all. It's originally, when it first started, 2014, 2015, it was closer to $25,000. Just like everything in the state, it's the money has decreased over the years as to what's available. They tell us how much is available, and then we look for ways to spend it. This year there was 15,000, like I said, 15,668 available. Snoqualmie, we put in for about 9,000 of that, which is for doing phase 2 of the upgrade in our training room with AV equipment. We're going to put in some TV screens to better when we separate the room, to be able to utilize both ports of the room. So we're going to put up some TV screens to better utilize it. And when we put in the original equipment a couple years ago, we built it within the idea of that would be added. So we put in some of the bigger switches, things like that, so it would be easily added. And then also the other piece that we're going to be using is, if you haven't noticed, some of those AM broadcast signs have either been knocked down or have been out of disrepair. So the CCAS group has been working on getting those back up and running again. And so the other portion of the money, $1,000 or $2,000 is going to be used to get those signs back up and running. I believe Duval put in for some emergency rations for their city, for their EOC, and Carnation put in for a new radio. So of that $15,000, almost $16,000, only $9,000 is coming back to Snoqualmie, but it's just something you want to be aware of. It is something that we've done for the last couple of years. One of the functions that your EOC, your emergency management, does for the city. So that was just recently, I did the application a couple months ago. That was just recently granted to us here a couple weeks ago. So we just wanted to let you know that that's one of the things that we're doing, one of the things we're working on, and some of the grants that the city is able to obtain and money coming back into the city. Is there any questions about the EMPG or?
Councilmember Cotton.
Do we want to share some of the rations at our fire station with Duval? That have been up there for decades?
No, they had their own supplies that have expired, and they needed to, that was the thing that they looked. What I do every year is I would reach out to the other, Chief Carrera and now myself would reach out to the other agencies, say, hey, is there anything that you need with this in mind? That's the thing that they put back in for. So it's the water, I can't think of the right name, the military, the MREs.
The rations, yeah.
Councilmember Christensen, do you have anything on your mind?
Thank you, Chief, for going out and getting the additional funds. Do we have sufficient unexpired rations for our folks as well?
I don't believe ours are expired now.
Okay.
But we do have a store of rations up in the mezzanine of the station.
Okay. Glad to hear that.
Quite a bit.
Yeah. Okay.
I think you're talking about how much space it takes. Though. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Chief.
I appreciate you sharing this with us. Is there anything that we can do as either as a council or as a community to help support these efforts in the future?
At this point, I don't believe so. With this grant specifically, it's a fair, I mean, all money, any money that comes into the city is important, especially money that comes from the government. This one is fairly specific as to what we can use it for. There are other grants out there that we can look for that would, a little bit more involved, maybe a little bit more coming in. Myself, the Public Works Department, also Planning Department have looked at those over the years and have been partaking in those. And I think those, we're still working on. This one, like I said, it is on the smaller end. Like I said, there's only 15,000 available, and it's, if there is a need, at some point, other than, when it comes around time again to ask about, we are planning on doing a couple EOC exercises. It's been a while since we've done it. We're planning on doing a couple EOC exercises in 2025. We're going to include the council with some of those because that's part of setting it up and having it. So there might be things that come out of there that either is sparked by the council or sparked by some of those exercises that we'll be able to put in for next year, some things that we might need to update. But at this time, I think, this one is pretty set, but for sure, if there's anything that comes in that, the council or the committee could be helpful in obtaining or, filling out these grants and stuff, I'll be sure to ask.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you.
It's always interesting when you're trying to anticipate what might go wrong until something goes wrong, and then you realize we should have planned for it.
Who would have thought?
Yeah,
who would've thought?
exactly. It's, my superpower would be, if I had hindsight as foresight, that would be the superpower to have. But we do our best, and we certainly appreciate all the work that the chief does, as well as the department. Well, with that, we have come down to the end of our agenda. Is there anything else that needs to come before us tonight? Yes, Councilmember Cotton.
Just wanted to maybe ask a question or two regarding our public comment. Since I wasn't involved in the upgrade downtown with the flashing lights for the crosswalks, does anybody remember like about how much something like that costs to go in, like for upgrades for potentially those crossings?
City
sir.
Administrator Chambliss might.
The actual equipment's between $40,000 and $60,000. The difficult parts is getting power to the site and paying for the labor to install it. Complicating factor in this intersection is
202.
state jurisdiction. So I've already sent an email out to the Public Works Director asking him to reach out to the state and have the intersection evaluated.
Thank you very much.
I've been kind of worried about both ends of the city with the change in the speed limit from 35 to 25 because people are not slowing down to
Hmm.
25. And so anything we can do for traffic calming or something like even like the sign, the solar speed sign coming down the parkway, how much does something like that run approximately?
Those signs are somewhere between 10 and 20, depending on what features you get in it. Yeah,
Okay, and again, I realize
nothing's cheap anymore.
it's on 202. I realize that's the other limiting.
So hearing your comments, what we should probably do is pencil in later on in our agenda some time and give Chief Lynch a chance to put some figures and numbers together and maybe we can take a look at it month and a half from now in some options. I mean, there might be some other simple things, rumble strips or paint coating that can be put on, city run streets, not necessarily 202. But that would be a little more coordination and just look at that because this is not the first time we've had concerns around speeding and we don't want to spend, all of our resources on doing traffic enforcement. That's probably, but if there are other ways to monitor it, might be more effective. Director I'm City Administrator Chambliss.
The the Public Works Department did put out a pallet of rumble strips around town
Mhm.
this summer, usually around schools.
Okay,
So, and I know they're ordering another pallet. So.
okay. Well, excellent. Thank you for bringing that up. Anything else for the good of the order?
No.
Hearing nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Second.
All right. And with that, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much. It is 5:35 PM.